everyone, my name is Caroline Roy from grade 12 STEM, and I'm here to discuss about the fermentation through the process of making wine. Fermentation drives complex chemical reactions that affect the flavor, aroma, color of the finished wine. And during fermentation, yung yeast is kino-convert yung grape sugars into alcohol. Ano nga ba yung tinatawag natin yeast? Yeast is a complex organism that perform a wide array of biochemical processes in fermenting a alcohol. At its simplest, fermentation is often described as the conversion of molecules of glucose into two molecules of each ethanol and carbon dioxide. So, kaya i-discuss ko yung process ng pagka-fermentation. Siyempre, unang-una is yung harvesting, crushing, fermentation, classification, and lastly, yung pag-aging and bottling ng wine.
The first step in making wine is harvesting. It is the grapes which contain all the required esters, tannins, and acid that makes delicious wine. The moment at which the grapes are picked from the vineyards is what actually determines the sweetness, flavor, and acidity of the wine. Along with the traditional tasting method, deciding when to harvest the grapes also requires a fair bit of science. It is very important to make sure that the sweetness and acidity of the grapes are in perfect balance while picking the grapes, and not to forget, weather also plays an important role in the harvesting process. The second step in winemaking is crushing. Once the grapes are sorted in bunches, now it is time to destem them and crush them. This crushing process used to be done by feet in the past. If you have ever gone on a wine tour, many of the wineries do allow you to crush them by feet as part of the tour. However, majority of the winemakers now do this crushing process mechanically. There are mechanical presses available which would thread or stomp the grapes into mass. The third step in winemaking is fermentation. Crushing and pressing is followed by the fermentation process. Mass naturally starts fermenting within 6 to 12 hours when wild yeast is added to it. But many of winemakers add culture yeast to the mass to predict the final outcome and ensure consistency. This fermentation process continues until all the sugar is transformed into alcohol, resulting in the production of dry wine. If sweet wine is to be made, winemakers halt the process in between to prevent entire sugar from converting. The total fermentation process can take about a week to a month and even more. The fourth step in winemaking is clarification. After fermentation, it's time for clarification now. This is the process in which tannins, proteins, and dead yeast is removed from the wine. Filtration or fining process is used for clarification. For clarifying, substances are also added to result in the fining process. After the clarification process, the wine is transferred into other tank and prepared for aging and bottling. The last step in winemaking is aging and bottling. The final stage of this process is aging and bottling the wine. The wine can be instantly bottled or the winemaker can give additional aging to the wine. For aging, the wine is transferred to oak barrel, stainless steel tanks or bottles. Many of the winemakers prefer using oak barrel for aging as it's known to add a rounder, smoother, and more vanilla-like flavor to the wine. Moreover, it also helps in increasing their oxygen exposure following the tannins to get reduced and enabling the wine to reach to an optimal flavor. For white wines, steel tanks are generally preferred.
And may tatlong bagay na na-influencehan ng fermentation. Unang-una is yung sugar content, pangalawa is yung fermentation temperature, and lastly is yung fermentation vessel.
Sugar content. The higher the initial sugar content of the mass, the more alcohol will be present in the finished wine. If allowed to ferment the dryness, more alcohol means a tired job for the yeast, making monitoring yeast health important. Unhealthy, stressed yeasts are more likely to produce undesirable flavor and aroma compounds. Fermentation temperature is also crucial. Lower temperature preserve fragile, volatile aromatics in the wine. If temperature are too low, however, yeast work slowly or they may have difficulty fermenting all the sugar. Higher temperature allow for better grape skin, tannin extraction but tend to drive off fruity flavors and aromas. Finding the right fermentation temperature is all about balance. Fermentation vessel. In winery, fermentation occurs in a fermentation vessel where yeast is allowed to complete its work. Different fermentation vessels can influence how fermentation proceeds as well as the finished wine. Oak, for example, allow for gradual oxidation of the juice and wine, while the wood usually softens and impact of tannins and acid, resulting in rounder wine with a distinct character. Stainless steel is highly non-eruptive, making for bright, clean, and crisper wines. Concrete fermentation vessel can leave behind in subtitle mineral character in wines while permitting a little desirable oxidation. Clay. Once the aging process finishes, the wine is then bottled with a screw cap or cork.
Most of the time, fermentation is complete when yeast consume all the sugar they can, meaning the wine is fermented to dryness. It means the wine is fermented to dryness, and most of the time yung yeast is namatay na in this stage. The presence of the yeast can profound the texture, aroma, and the taste of the wine that is aging. And that's for all. Sana may natutunan kayo sa akin and about the fermentation to the process of making wine. And yun lamang. Goodbye!